Okay, so are we basically good or are we evil? I mean, it's a question that's been around forever. Right?
Yeah. And it seems like we never get tired of asking it.
Not at all. And you know what's cool is you sent me like all this different stuff for this deep dive. YouTube videos, philosophy, psychology.
Even some like personal stories too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All trying to figure out this whole good versus evil thing about humans. So I figured let's try to dig into all of it and see if we can uncover anything surprising.
Yeah. See if we can get a little closer to figuring out this whole debate.
Exactly.
I think what always gets me is like how different the perspectives are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on the one hand, you've got someone like Rutger Bregman. In his book, Humankind, he makes a pretty strong argument for humans being like naturally good, cooperative, and kind.
Right.
But then there's that Lord of the Flies thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that image we all have in our heads, you know? Without rules, we just descend into chaos.
Total selfishness, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like we're almost drawn to the darkness, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is it really there?
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting. Bregman actually found this real-life example. And it like totally challenges the whole Lord of the Flies narrative.
You're talking about the Tungan schoolboys, right?
Yes.
Stranded on an island
In the 60s.
for over a year. 6 boys. You'd think that's like a recipe for disaster.
Totally.
But instead of like fighting and all that, they actually created this whole system of cooperation.
Wow.
Divided tasks, created their own little society. It helped them survive.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
For sure.
Like, are we really as bad as we think we are?
Right. And Bregman goes even further, suggesting that maybe this tendency to cooperate, it's actually in our biology.
Really?
Yeah. He talks about this idea called survival of the friendliest.
Survival of the friendliest.
Okay, so it proposes that basically certain physical traits that we have, things that make us seem friendly and approachable, they actually helped our ancestors survive.
Okay.
Yeah. Think about it. Our eyes, the white part, the sclera, it lets us see where other people are looking.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then blushing, you know, when you get embarrassed or feel shame.
Yeah.
That signals something too, right?
Right.
Bregman says these traits made it easier for our ancestors to build trust and work together.
Oh.
And that gave them an advantage, like in a challenging world.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, blushing is a survival mechanism,
Right.
but it makes sense. Like, if you think about how important it is to connect with others,
Right.
to be part of a group.
Exactly. That social connection is key.
Hmm.
And Bregman also talks about all this research on how people behave during disasters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, you know, the media, they often focus on the looting and the violence.
Yeah, all the bad stuff.
But research shows that most people actually act with a ton of kindness and selflessness.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Helping strangers, even risking their own safety.
That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, we can't ignore the other side either, can we?
What do you mean?
What about those who exhibit those darker, more selfish tendencies? The folks who just seem to lack empathy?
You're bringing up a really crucial point. There's a whole spectrum of human behavior.
For sure.
And in psychology, there's this concept, the dark triad. It refers to 3 personality traits.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I think. Remind me.
So it's narcissism,
Okay.
Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
Okay.
And essentially narcissism, it's like this excessive focus on oneself, right?
Yeah.
Machiavellianism is about being cunning and manipulative to get what you want.
Okay.
And then psychopathy is marked by a lack of empathy and remorse.
Right.
Now, when these traits are really strong in a person, it can lead to some pretty bad stuff.
Like what?
Antisocial behavior, manipulation, even violence.
So how do these tendencies play into this whole good versus evil thing? I mean, does it mean some people are just born bad?
That's where the whole nature versus nurture debate comes in.
Mm.
And there's this case study that always gets brought up, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dahmer. Yeah. A disturbing case.
Really disturbing. And he's fascinating because he showed a lot of those dark triad traits.
Oh, really?
Especially that need for control, lack of empathy. And you know, it's interesting. His case shows how complex the whole interplay is between someone's personality and their environment.
Right, because it's not like everyone who has, you know, a rough childhood or struggles with certain desires becomes a serial killer.
Exactly. It's never that simple.
Yeah.
Dahmer had a complicated childhood. He struggled with his sexuality, but we have to remember, those factors don't excuse what he did.
Of course.
His case really raises these questions about trauma, like how it affects us, how it impacts the human psyche, and whether some people are just more vulnerable to those negative influences.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how much control do we really have over our actions? who we become.
And that question brings us to existentialism, which challenges the whole idea of good and evil altogether.
Okay, let's talk about that. What's the main idea behind existentialism?
So one of the central ideas is that we're born without any inherent purpose or nature.
Oh.
It's like we're a blank slate, and we create our own essence through the choices we make.
Through our actions.
Exactly. So no predetermined good or evil.
So it's more about freedom, like we define ourselves.
Yeah, it's definitely empowering.
It is.
But it also means we're responsible for the choices we make.
Right.
Jean-Paul Sartre, he was a key figure in existentialism, and he said we're condemned to be free.
Condemned to be free.
Yeah, we have the freedom to choose, but that freedom comes with responsibility.
Because your choices have consequences.
Exactly. Sartre tells this story about one of his students. He was torn between joining the resistance during the war and staying home to care for his sick mother.
Oh, wow.
There was no easy answer. He had to figure out what he valued most and then act on it.
That's a tough one.
Knowing that either choice, it would have consequences.
Wow, that really shows how our personal values shape what we do, especially when there are no easy answers.
Right.
But then we also have to consider all the external stuff that affects our choices.
Yeah.
Things that can even override our values, our sense of what's right and wrong.
You're right. And one of the most extreme examples of this is brainwashing.
Brainwashing. That's scary stuff.
It really is.
And we have this powerful example in Steve Hassan. He was a former member of the Moonies cult.
Yeah.
And he talks about how certain techniques can override a person's critical thinking.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Like thought stopping and indoctrination.
So they're being led to believe and do things that go against what they originally believed.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's really wild.
It makes you wonder how much control we really have over our own minds.
Especially when we're faced with those strong external pressures.
Yeah. It's a question worth exploring.
It really is. Because it gets to the core of how vulnerable we are as humans.
For sure.
Like how susceptible we are to those outside forces.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
I know, right?
It's scary, but it's also fascinating.
It is. It's like this puzzle we keep trying to solve.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unsettling to think that someone could have their beliefs and actions so totally manipulated, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to understand brainwashing?
Well, it's not magic. Brainwashing, it's actually based on these psychological principles.
Okay.
And usually involves a whole bunch of coercive techniques.
Okay.
Remember Steve Hassan, former Mooney guy?
Yeah.
He actually came up with this model to explain it all. It's called the BITE model.
BITE?
Yeah, BITE stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control.
So those are the four main ways these authoritarian groups control people.
You got it.
Okay, break it down for me. What kind of techniques are we talking about here?
Well, let's start with behavior control. These groups, they try to control everything you do.
Really?
Like what you eat, how you dress, who you hang out with.
Wow.
Strict rules, punishments, all designed to create this environment of fear and obedience.
So it's about controlling the outside stuff, making you conform.
Exactly. But it goes deeper.
Yeah.
Then there's information control. They might censor information, twist it, make sure you don't see anything from the outside.
So you're only getting their side of the story.
Right. Only their propaganda is considered the truth.
It's like an echo chamber.
Totally. And within that echo chamber, they work on your thoughts.
Oh, wow.
Thought control.
How do they do that?
Things like thought-stopping techniques, using certain loaded language, or just constant indoctrination.
So you're always hearing their message, and any doubts you have, you just push them down.
Exactly. And then there's emotional control. Maybe the most powerful of them all.
Really?
They prey on your emotions. Fear, guilt, shame.
Love to, right? Like the need to belong.
Totally. Creating a sense of dependence, you know, making you loyal to the group.
You're always looking for their approval.
Right.
And it can be really damaging, I bet.
Incredibly damaging.
Yeah.
And what makes it even worse is that it often happens slowly, subtly.
You don't even realize it's happening.
You think you're making your own choices.
But you're not.
You might think you've found, the one true path.
Oh, wow.
Or the ultimate answer to everything.
But it's all manipulation.
It's scary how easily we can be drawn into those situations.
It is. So is there a certain type of person who's more likely to fall for this?
Not really one specific type, but there are certain factors that make someone more vulnerable.
Like what?
People going through big changes, uncertainty, like a breakup, job loss, maybe a spiritual crisis.
They're looking for something.
Exactly. Meaning something to hold on to. And these groups, they offer that.
They offer belonging, purpose.
Right. And the leaders, they often take advantage of that.
Yeah.
They present themselves as these, like, saviors.
Gurus.
Exactly. They have all the answers.
It just shows how important critical thinking is.
Huge.
Able to step back, analyze what you're hearing.
Yeah.
It makes me think about anonymity, especially online.
Oh, interesting.
Like, people act so differently online, saying things they'd never say in person.
Hiding behind the screen names.
Yeah. It's like anonymity gives them permission to be awful.
It's a powerful disinhibitor.
What does that mean?
Basically, when we feel hidden, we feel less accountable.
Okay.
And we're more likely to do things that go against, like, our normal morals.
Look at that mob mentality thing, right?
Exactly.
Like, when you're in a big crowd, you lose your sense of self.
You lose your sense of responsibility.
And you do things you wouldn't normally do.
Right. And there's research to back this up.
Really?
Yeah. One study found that people were way more likely to leave nasty comments online when they were anonymous.
That makes sense. Like, the screen is a shield.
Totally.
It lets you act out all those bad impulses without consequences.
It's a little scary, right?
It is. It makes you wonder, is this changing us as a society? Making us less caring?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It goes back to how technology shapes how we interact, even how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we talked before about how it can lead to this historical amnesia.
Nope, forgetting the past.
But there's also this issue of our online personas becoming disconnected from who we really are.
So we're living double lives.
Kind of. We curate these perfect digital identities.
While ignoring all the messiness of being human.
Exactly. And that disconnect, it can have serious consequences.
Yeah.
Our relationships, mental health, even our ability to think critically.
It's like we're losing touch with reality.
In a way. But, you know, even with all these potential pitfalls, we can't forget that humans are also capable of incredible good.
That's true. We have been focusing on the darker stuff.
Yeah.
But we see kindness and compassion all the time.
All the time. Think about those Tongan schoolboys again.
Well, yes.
They could have turned on each other, but they didn't.
They chose cooperation?
Exactly. It really shows the power of empathy.
Which seems to be a part of us. Right?
Yeah, it seems to be built in.
So empathy is like a survival mechanism in itself. Like, by caring for others, we actually improve our chances of survival as a group.
That's the idea, and it goes beyond just those closest to us. Empathy can extend to strangers, different cultures, even people we might consider enemies.
That's amazing.
We see it in altruism, donating to charity, volunteering, just helping someone in need.
It's like we have this drive to connect with each other,
Mm-hmm.
to make a difference in the world.
Yeah. But is empathy something we're born with, or can we learn it?
It's a good question.
While some people might be naturally more empathetic, research says it's a skill you can actually cultivate.
So we're not stuck with whatever we're born with.
Nope. We can learn to be more compassionate.
That's encouraging.
It is. Things like mindfulness, compassion meditation, even just exposing yourself to different perspectives.
So it's like exercising a muscle. The more you practice empathy, the stronger it gets.
Great analogy. It really is. But then the question becomes, how do we move from this individual focus to something more collective? Like, how do we cultivate goodness on a societal level?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is. Well, I think education is key.
Okay.
We need to teach empathy and compassion, not just in schools, but everywhere.
In our homes, our communities.
It takes a village, right?
Totally. But it's also about creating systems that promote cooperation and fairness, right?
Absolutely. Things like social safety nets, access to healthcare and education.
Policies that address inequality.
All of that. By addressing those root causes of suffering, we create a society where everyone can thrive.
So we're reducing the things that lead to fear and resentment and violence.
Exactly. It's about being proactive.
Instead of just reacting to problems after they happen.
Right. And it's not just about fixing the bad stuff. It's about promoting the good.
Okay.
We should be celebrating acts of kindness, highlighting stories of cooperation and compassion.
I love that. Like, what if the news focused on positive stories, human triumphs?
Right. Imagine if social media prioritized content that inspired us.
That would be amazing.
It's about changing the narrative.
Focusing on the good instead of always dwelling on the bad.
Yeah. We need to create a culture that values those things. Empathy, cooperation, the common good.
It's a big task.
It is. But while we might never get rid of the darker sides of human nature, we can make it much harder for them to take over.
So make kindness the norm.
Exactly. And we all have a part to play in that.
Through our choices, our actions.
How we interact with others.
We can all contribute to a more compassionate world.
A more just world.
Absolutely. It's wild to think how much the world around us really shapes who we are. I mean, we've talked about our biology, our experiences, all that internal stuff.
Right.
But it seems like external forces, they can really mess with us.
They can.
Sometimes even like overriding our values, our sense of morality.
Absolutely. It's like we're constantly being influenced whether we know it or not.
Right. And like you said before, brainwashing, that's a prime example.
It is.
The idea that someone could be like tricked into believing things and acting in ways that go against who they are, it's terrifying.
It's really unsettling. But remember, brainwashing, it's a process.
Okay.
And it uses these specific techniques.
Right. And we can learn to spot them.
Exactly. We talked about the BITE model, remember?
Yeah. Behavior, information, thought, and emotional control.
Right. That's a good way to understand how these, like, cults and other groups, how they exert control.
Uh-huh.
But those tactics are used in other places too, you know?
Really? Like where?
Advertising, politics, even just, like, personal relationships.
Give me some examples. Like, how else can people be manipulated?
Fear is a big one.
Fear.
Yeah. It's everywhere. Politics, marketing, like campaigns that play on your fears about safety, security, your social status even.
Oh, yeah.
Like, vote for me or the terrorists win, or buy this product or you'll be a total loser.
Oh, yeah, the fear-mongering stuff.
Exactly.
I've definitely seen that.
It works because it taps into those, like, deep down survival instincts we have.
Right.
But when it's used to, like, manipulate you, it can make people do some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. What about guilt trips?
Oh, guilt. Another classic.
But my family's created those.
Guilt is a powerful tool. It can be used to make you do things you wouldn't normally do because you feel obligated or you're afraid of disappointing someone.
I slaved over this dinner and you're not even going to try it.
Exactly. But it's not just family stuff.
Right.
Think about charities. You know, they use those guilt appeals too to get donations. They highlight suffering, make you feel responsible if you don't give.
I guess it can be effective, but yeah, it feels kind of icky when you realize what they're doing.
Right. It's all about recognizing the intention behind the message.
Yeah.
Are they genuinely asking for help? Or are they trying to play you?
Okay, what about subliminal messages?
Yeah.
Those things always freak me out. Like, can you really brainwash someone with hidden messages in advertising?
It's a cool idea, but the research is kind of all over the place. It might have some subtle short-term effects.
Okay.
But it's not this, like, all-powerful mind control thing.
So no secret brainwashing going on in pop songs?
Probably not.
Okay, good.
But advertising, they definitely use psychology.
Oh, yeah?
To influence our choices.
Yeah, all the time.
Celebrity endorsements, associating products with, like, happy feelings, creating sense of scarcity, like limited time offer.
Oh, I hate that.
It gets us every time.
Yeah, I've totally fallen for that.
It's designed to make us want things.
And it works.
It does. And it's not just about buying stuff.
Right.
Political campaigns do the same thing. They try to make their candidate look like a hero, the opponent a villain.
Yeah, it's all about playing on people's emotions.
It is. And it makes me think so much of this persuasion stuff, it's really just storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Creating a narrative that people connect with.
Emotionally.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important to think critically, to question the stories we're being told.
To look for other perspectives.
Yeah. So we've talked about the dark side of persuasion, all the ways it can be used to manipulate.
Right.
But can it be used for good?
That's a good question. I mean, can it?
Absolutely. Think about those public service announcements.
Okay.
You know, the ones that encourage healthy habits or donating to charity.
Yeah.
They use those same appeals, the storytelling.
To get people to do good things.
Exactly. So it really comes down to intention.
Like, what's the goal?
Yeah. Are you trying to help or trying to harm?
Right. That makes me think about how much influence we all have on each other.
We do, whether we realize it or not.
Just through our words, our actions.
Even just by being present.
It's like that butterfly effect thing.
I love that analogy.
Like the smallest thing can have huge consequences.
It can, for better or worse.
It really shows how interconnected we all are.
We are. We're part of this web of relationships constantly influencing each other.
Wow. Okay. So after this deep dive, I'm feeling kind of, I don't know, hopeful and kind of bummed out at the same time.
Yeah, I get that.
Hopeful because, I mean, we can do great things.
We can.
But also kind of despairing because we're so easily manipulated. Like, the darkness is always there.
It's understandable to feel that way. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I want to end on a note of cautious optimism. We might never get rid of the bad stuff completely, but we can make it a lot harder for it to thrive.
By promoting empathy, cooperation, building a world that's fairer, more just.
Exactly. We can tip the scales toward the good.
And make kindness the default.
Yes. It's a vision worth fighting for. It won't be easy. But humans, we're capable of amazing things.
We are.
We have the power to choose, to learn, to grow, to create a future where the best of us wins out.
I like that. It's a powerful thought. So to everyone listening, what kind of world do you want to live in? What choices will you make to bring out the best in yourself and those around you? Because ultimately, we're all in this together, figuring out this whole human experience as we go.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.